So it sounds like we're asking for a lot, right? Us recruiters here. Flexibility, high compensation, compensation package, work from home. Like it is a lot. And I get that. But we've really found over the past several months, especially, that this is the ideal recipe to attract top level talent that will drive your future increased growth for the lab and your company, which will also equate to profitability and potential expansion of your lab and your business ultimately. I wanted to offer a few little statistics here. We're hearing about what people are calling the Great Resignation happening right now, and we're seeing this in the lab industry as well. Essentially, 11.5 million people quit their jobs between April, May, and June of this year. And recent surveys in the United States and abroad are showing somewhere between 40 and 50% of employees are actively looking for new jobs. The pandemic has caused us to take a big step back and look at the job that we're doing and how that fulfills us and our happiness, and if we are fulfilled in our work. And that has a lot to do with motivation and output and efficiency. So Lighthouse and recruiters like us are here to help you attract and retain the top talent, and using some of these tips and using some of these ideas in terms of flexibility, compensation, relocation, things like that. Show the candidates that you care, you're invested in them as a company, and those are the kinds of companies and labs that candidates want to work with and for. So a couple of tips for working with recruiters. I thought we would go over those just in general. This doesn't have to be for a lab director specifically, but it works for that type of hire as well. I know a lot of people have had poor experiences working with recruiters, or know someone who's had a horror story working with a recruiter. It's been way more frustrating than it has been helpful. That's not how it should be. Working with a recruiter should make the hiring of a qualified candidate easier, not harder on you. And I'd like to tell you some tips as a recruiter that helps me do a better job as a recruiter for my clients. And there's basically two big takeaways here. One is work with someone who's familiar with your specific industry. Lighthouse is obviously niched into the lab industry specifically. We don't serve other industries. That helps us to stay abreast of the changes in the regulations as it applies to personnel, lab directors in particular, because these state by state regulations can change. Like I mentioned earlier, the CLIA and the COLA determination that they're no longer going to accept grandfathered in lab directors. We're able to stay on top of those changes because we're in the lab industry, and that's the industry we're specialized in, and we're not working in various other industries. You can't really learn a specific industry by doing one search, and the lab industry is an especially good example of that because of all the nuance there. And then the other thing that you can do to make your interaction with the recruiter and the recruiting process much easier as a result is just to provide feedback. And that's early and that's often. So I encourage my clients to be brutally honest with me. I want all that transparent information as to why they are passing on this particular candidate, why they want to interview this other candidate. That helps me adjust my search. You can be brutally honest with me as a client of mine, and I'm not going to go back to any candidates and, put them off, so to speak. I'll find a way to soften it if you're declining candidates or you don't want to move forward with them for any reason. Good recruiters find a way to soften that feedback back to the candidate. And honestly, we deliver that feedback to candidates way more often than we get to offer them jobs. So we're really good at this. Provide us the honest feedback, and you don't have to worry that we're going to go back to the candidate and run our mouth, so to speak, about what you said. On the contrary, actually, is what we'll probably do as a good recruiter is to utilize that feedback to also train and help that candidate become a better candidate in terms of for their next interview. So providing the feedback early, as soon as you review a candidate resume, as soon as you talk to a candidate via phone screen, as soon as you interview that candidate or in person or over the phone or Zoom, and then often. So as things change with your search or within your company, providing that feedback helps good recruiters adjust to find you the best possible fit for the individual that you ultimately hire. Again, the early feedback is really important, because you want to jump on the chance to work with candidates that are great candidates. They are scooped up really fast currently, given that the demand is more than the supply. So you want to provide feedback to your recruiter early so as not to miss out on working with great candidates. And then again, often after every time you receive a resume, review that resume, give your honest feedback, and that recruiter can adjust from there so that they're not wasting your time with candidates that are similar in profile, but not going to meet your needs or your ideal preferences.